I'm Christopher Schoenwald, and welcome to Life as a show intently focused on helping people find their professional pathway by exploring and unearthing the details of jobs from around the world. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to throw this out there. I have a channel over on YouTube, Life as a ... which basically hosts highlights from these audio conversations that I have with these great guests. They typically run 10 to 15 minutes, and they're there to kind of present a different vantage point. You know, for people that aren't into audio, aren't into podcasts, but are still looking for career advice, ideas, help, all that great stuff, send them over to YouTube. Like I said, Life as a ... And if you do get over there, I would love that like or subscribe. I mean, it's the best way to let that algorithm know that the content is worth sharing and should be out there. So anyway, I do thank you for letting me plug this a little bit, but I think it's about time to get into today's episode. You know, I gotta say, I'm continually amazed at the ways in which professionals and entrepreneurs find their way, purpose, passion, or whatever you personally call it. Listeners of this program know that in most cases, people do not have these huge master plans in their youth with the structured step-by-step instructions they follow towards landing their dream job or launching their own business. Nah, that's rubbish. And excuse me for being so frank, but if there's anything I've learned on this show is that professional purpose is born out of exposure to a lot of seemingly disparate experiences, followed by thoughtful reflections. And to be honest, the more of each, the better. And take today's guest. She finds herself feeling enriched and driven running her startup business in a tiny countryside town in Japan. And how did she end up there? Well, again, a lot of varied experiences, including her voyages around the world, her exposure to ideas in formal education, and social interactions online. Well, today we're going to puzzle all of this together for you in this inspiring episode that may just give you ideas or strategies towards settling in on your own professional mission. All right, well, let me more formally bring you up to speed on our guest and we can get started. Kirameki is a bold entrepreneur, global citizen, and visionary leader in rural revitalization and sustainable energy. Born in Tanzania to a Burmese, Australian, American, Polish family, she grew up in Australia before moving to the United States alone at the age of 15. With her father in the United Nations, UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Kira was immersed in internationalism from an early age, sparking a lifelong passion for exploration, culture, and impact. Now, after majoring in environmental studies, political science, and geography at the University of Oregon and spending 3 months conducting field research in the Amazon rainforest, Kira set out to travel the world indefinitely. Having visited 41 countries across 6 continents by the age of 24, she unexpectedly found a home in the Japanese countryside, a place as foreign as it was familiar. Surrounded by mountains and rice paddies, she joined a 3,500-year-old Kagura performing arts troupe, deepening her connection to culture and community. Now pursuing a master's degree in sustainable energy at Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies, Kira is at the forefront of pioneering solutions that merge innovation with tradition. And she recently launched Kirameki, a rural revitalization business that embodies everything she has learned in her global journey. In just 2 weeks, her videos about Kirameki have garnered over 4 million video views, 50,000 new media social followers, and earned Kira the role of an official tourism ambassador for her town. Leading Japan's rural revitalization movement, Kira is reshaping the narrative around sustainable development, cultural preservation, and community-driven progress. Her future is just beginning, and she's determined to make every moment count. And with all of this noted, love to welcome you to my conversation with Kirameki. Yeah, so welcome to the program. How are you doing today, Kira?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really well, really well. I've been looking forward to this talk for a while. I mean, you've got this super interesting background, and I'm really excited to allow you to share it with listeners. I know they're gonna to eat it all up, and also too, as an aside, I mean, you're one prefecture over from where I am here within Japan, so that's kind of a fun thing. I don't usually encounter that with this podcast, so yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Hiroshima's pretty underrated.
Absolutely, absolutely. For those who haven't been to Japan or let alone Hiroshima, definitely it's got to be a spot on your list. So I
Mhm.
do have this first segment lined up for us today, Kira. It's called Coloring Wikipedia. As my listeners know, it's a segment where I just read off a definition of something related to what the guest is all about. Now, a bit of a disappointing bit of news here is that Wikipedia didn't have a definition of what I was after, which is rural revitalization. So, considering the day and age we're in right now, I went with ChatGPT. So I'm kind of curious. This is the first time I've done it this way. So I'm curious to see what
Mhm.
this definition comes up with and how it sort of like hits with somebody such as yourself. So let me just read that off
Mhm.
and then you can comment. Sound okay?
Sure.
All right. So here we go. Rural revitalization. Rural revitalization refers to the process of improving and reinvigorating rural communities by enhancing their economic, social, and environmental conditions. It typically involves strategies such as infrastructure development, job creation, sustainable agriculture, education, and healthcare improvements, and policies aimed at attracting residents and businesses to rural areas. The goal is to make rural regions more livable, economically viable, and socially dynamic, while preserving their cultural and environmental heritage. A bit wordy, but first take, what do you think of that?
That really nails it in the sense of, the economic standpoint and sustainability standpoint, and the way it even mentions cultural revitalization and even attracting people to the region. That really, even though it's quite wordy, it really encompasses sort of everything that I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I mean, this is a point within Japan. For those who aren't necessarily clued in on Japan, this is a big issue right now. We're having a lot of the young people within Japan moving to big city centers like Osaka, Tokyo, and you're having this hollowing out of the countryside. It obviously presents some challenges and difficulties, and this point of rural revitalization in Japan is a big one, and certainly in a lot of other countries as well. So yeah, you and your business and what you're doing, at least within Japan, to kind of fight this, I find really quite compelling. And this might be an opportune time to hear a little bit more about that. I mean, I did mention it off the top of the show, but maybe you could fill listeners in.
Yeah, I'd love to. And, one of the feelings that I get and that isn't mentioned in that definition is I am trying to sort of preserve my community's everything before it's too late. And in Japan, with this hollowing out, you see with depopulation and aging population, younger people moving out because there's not economic opportunities where they're living. Sort of what I'm trying to do is before these people leave, before schools are abandoned and all homes are abandoned, it's better to try and incentivize people to move there and sort of showcase the town before it's too late, because these abandoned towns exist everywhere in Japan already. And Hiroshima itself is the second largest prefecture with a declining population. So, sort of like right person, right time. Even anybody I talk to about it, they don't know what is going on in Hiroshima besides the city, besides the atomic bomb site, besides Miyajima. And I live in such a culturally rich area. I think it's a beautiful place that's untouched and the world hasn't seen yet. And I'm able to bridge the world to my town. So that's sort of what I'm up to and why it's important where I am.
Yeah, really quickly, like how big is the town that you're living in population wise?
It's about 20,000 people. So
Okay.
I actually went to the University of Oregon with a population of 20,000 people. So it's quite interesting to live in a town it's called Kita Hiroshima. Within that are like four smaller towns within it. So quite spacious. All the properties are huge. We have many tambo, which are rice fields all around us. So it's very sparse. But at the same time, you have everything you need. And I'm about a 40-minute drive into like the city. So it's like inaka, but not super inaccessible.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly relate on my end. I mean, I'm living in a booming metropolis of about 50,000 within the Japanese countryside. So like,
Wow,
but yeah, it's the same sort of
50,000.
thing though. It's a lot of like
Yeah.
rural land and rice paddies and fortunately where I
Yes.
am, I'm right on like the inland sea, which is quite nice as well. But yeah, I can certainly relate to what you're saying there. Now, on your website, Kirameki website, I see that you have like a number of different services as far as like ways you're going about like trying to attract interest to perhaps, travelers outside of Japan to come and experience, all that countryside town like yours offers.
Yeah.
Maybe you could fill us in on those.
Yeah. So for me, so I'm 24, and before establishing my business, I was doing workaway.com, which is like a volunteering platform where you can work all over the world. And just with my knowledge and experience with talking to many different people, is that people beyond my age range, like in their 30s to 80s, people want to sort of experience authentic travel and contribute to places when they're traveling. And there's not really a resource for that. So I'm sort of striving to create a bunch of different programs that can be accessible and interesting to a variety of people. So whether you want a structured program, you don't want to worry about anything, any logistics, that exists. Whether you want to sort of get a peek into what life in the countryside is like and consider relocation or long-term living there, I'm sort of doing a sort of immersive program so you could experience the community, experience what's going on, see if it's the right fit for you, but also make it feel like home. And then within that is this volunteering and work opportunity situation where we have specific needs in my town for human power. So anything to do with like manual labor or tending the rice fields or helping with even marketing and tourism and bringing skilled professionals to my town to volunteer and contribute to a community and have a tangible difference that you can immediately visualize and feel. That is something that I really want to provide for my community. So inherently the short-term programs and sustainable tourism is already stimulating the economy, and interesting people from all over the world are visiting, and the community is very excited to meet these people and sort of have their eyes open to the world because they can't travel because of the weak yen. So I'm giving them all these opportunities to sort of bridge the world with my town and just do as many things as possible to make it accessible for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot on your plate. There's so many different things that you have probably on the go at the moment. And I'm sure you have a billion other ideas that you'd like to enact as well. And it's probably a bit tricky at times and, having to be a bit choosy of like focusing on a few just to get them off the ground and then moving on to the next one. Am I on anything there?
Absolutely. And, I started all of this kind of on my own. And I guess the blessing that came within all of this is I just posted a couple videos on Instagram explaining my business, and they went viral. And now I have almost 70,000 people supporting me. And I keep attracting the right people who really care about this mission. And I just started this. So I'm not in the position to like employ people and really scale, but people are like, I need to help you. And I believe in this as well. So I just have people from all over the world that are just pouring their love into this project with me. So I don't feel alone anymore. And even my community, everyone's just helping me so much.
How far along are you? I mean, when did you start this?
So the process was basically I first had to get the business manager visa in Japan, which is I think the trickiest application I've ever done in my
I bet.
life. And that basically started in October last year. And then I was sort of like, playing around with ideas for the business, but of course I can't really start anything till I get the visa. So in January, I got the visa, and then I basically had a 6 month outline of like what I hope to do. And I was only going to take like one customer like a month because I didn't really have an idea of like what that would be like. And, by February, I figured out the website. I was like almost ready to develop it. Then I posted the video and it got 1 million views. And then I opened the bookings and I got booked out for the rest of the year within 3 days. So it's
Jeez.
basically started in like end of February, and now it's middle of April, and I'm about to open my bookings again because I am already scaling and I have more properties, more places for people. I've got like 20 interns working for
Oh my
me,
gosh.
and it's just really blossoming right now. So
Yeah.
it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like, I mean, you must be on cloud nine. This is probably like the dream scenario for any entrepreneur when they've got a vision or an idea
Yeah.
and it's actually coming to fruition in a lot of the ways that you sort of envisioned it going. That's must be, yeah, truly
Yeah,
exciting.
it's been quite surreal, and I had no previous knowledge on business, and all I knew is that this is like a common sense thing. Like all I knew is from my life of travel and my life experience. I'm like, I know what people would like, and I have something beautiful to offer. Let me just talk about it, and it just happened to work. And I think maybe people forget that when starting a business. If you just choose the obvious route and understand the market, I think that you'll always have demand. So that's really, really helped me because everybody loves Japan. So it was like, I'm in the perfect place to do this.
Yeah, it's certainly a boom. I mean, inbound tourism to this country at the moment is exploding, and yeah, it's striking a chord. People are after these really unique experiences as well. Like, I think it's interesting. I've been seeing some statistics where people are coming into Japan. They'll have a great experience. They'll hit all the major, cities like Tokyo,
Mm,
Osaka, Kyoto, and then after that, they're coming back to Japan for that second trip. And it's that
yes,
second trip where they want to get out of those major city centers and experience these
absolutely.
really like culturally rich experiences unto themselves. So yeah, I think you're definitely striking a chord here. I do want to return to a point that you brought up, relating to your background. You do have this
Yeah.
really compelling background as far as travel experience, obviously your education. Maybe you could help us connect up the dots a little bit here as far as how all of that came together with your mission right now. And then also, secondly, like why this small little town in Hiroshima Prefecture? How did that come together?
That's a nice question. Immediately what comes to mind is like really pivotal moments in my life and sort of the dream kind of career I had before all of this. So I was born in Tanzania in Africa, and my dad worked for the United Nations and specifically UNHCR to do with refugees and displaced peoples. And I guess from a really young age, I've always been very interested in humanitarian work and I really wanted to make a difference. And my mother's from Myanmar and currently with politics and everything, I've just always been tied with these very deep, cultural, societal problems. And I've always been aware of that from a really young age. And by the age of 18, I had been to about 20 countries. And then as I went to university, I studied environmental studies and geography and political science and just trying to find a way to make a difference. And then what's interesting is I studied abroad in the Amazon rainforest for about 6 weeks in my sophomore year. And when I went there, I went to my professor's conservation in the Amazon rainforest. I remember very vividly thinking, wow, I would live a really happy life having a conservation. And thought, oh, maybe it'll be in Peru, maybe it'll be, in South America doing something for nature. And strangely enough, I think what I'm doing now is sort of like my own conservation, but culturally and with the travel experience, I've like slowly grown into very naturally. And, after I graduated university, I just told everybody I was going to travel indefinitely. So I went to 25 more countries and then I got a working holiday visa in Japan and very magically ended up here and falling in love with the country. And after going to 18 prefectures and kind of like couch surfing and staying in like at host's house, volunteering places, I found myself in this tiny little town with this amazing host for only 3 days. And he asked if the following year, maybe he was going to go travel for a couple months, if I could take care of the cats and the koi fish. And I said yes. And basically, when I came there, it just very organically happened to be that I just felt like I became part of the community. He was like, "Maybe do you want to start a business?" I'm like, "Maybe I do. I think I'll just give it a go." And it just sort of all happened. And throughout all of this, I've started my master's degree in sustainable energy at Johns Hopkins University. And this is still ongoing. So I am extremely busy with school and work right now, but with what I'm learning at Hopkins and with like my ideal like vision for a sustainable future with energy and culture and people and just humanity, I think everything's just like very well blended right now. And it's just coming together and it doesn't feel like nothing I'm doing is like irrelevant. And whether it's school, whether it's my business, or even just life in Japan and my travel experiences, it's just all really working together. And I think rather than working for the United Nations, I think I can create something that's better fit for me and I can actually have a direct impact on the world without dealing with the bureaucracy. So it just feels like maybe this is just the best position for me and I was maybe by design made for this role.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story. And there's a couple of things that stand out to me, like when I was just listening to you tell that, is like one, like different reflective moments along the way. You're kind of finding out a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about the world and your place within it and what you want to do.
Yeah.
You might not have it all figured out, or you didn't have it all figured out at these different stages, for example, in the rainforest or visiting this country or that country, but I'm sure there's all these reflective moments along the way. And then the second point is this notion of serendipity along the way, too. This random small little town in Hiroshima that you ended up in just to do like a little bit of a homestay thing. And then suddenly this becomes your life and you're kind of bringing it all together. And the nature of this program, Life as like it's oftentimes aimed at young people who are trying to figure out their path, trying to figure out their way, and like a lot of people, like just by default, believe that they have to have it all figured out, right? They have to have it all mapped out, and it's got to go like in a linear line straight to whatever goal they've set in their mind. And the truth of it is like it rarely ever goes that way. I think a lot of the stories reflect, the way that things have unfolded for you. Maybe yours might be on the more extreme spectrum of just like traveling the world and all these crazy things you've done. But all the same, I think the message, rings true, like these moments do come across in our lives, and it's how we make sense of them. And then also just embracing these moments, embracing these opportunities. So I really like that. I really like that insight there. I do want to step into one other quick segment here, a day in the life. We've kind of brought this up already a couple times, like your success on a platform like Instagram, and I've caught some of your reels over there, which sort of got me interested in speaking with you. Is you give this really interesting look at your life at the moment, and it's intimate. It's showing like little bits and pieces of points in your day. But for those who haven't seen it just yet, I will have the link in the show notes. But maybe you could fill listeners in a little bit on that right now. Like, what does a typical day look like for you at this moment?
Well, at this very moment, I am really creating a model of how to scale this idea in basically every prefecture. So, what this starts as is figuring out the logistics for how to replicate this. And for me, at least, I'm creating a center, which is going to be this international cultural exchange center slash conservation, you could call it. And this is the Kirameki Center and the base of everything. And I'm just working really hard on renovations for it. It's like an abandoned property. I've been gardening a lot. I'm trying to bring it to life. I'm hosting interns and also guests who coincidentally do the same sort of experiences, and it's very like enriching itself. And every once in a while I'm hosting more guests and doing programs and sharing my town with them, or I'm doing consultations during the day to help people with travel planning and relocation to Japan, and actually teach people how to do what I'm doing. And then social media is just really in the background. It's a total accident that social media happened, and even I'm a bit confused what's going on because they're saying I'm an influencer, and I'm like, okay, like 70,000 followers and a couple million views. Like, is that
Well,
it? Because
you're
I'm
probably on your
just
way, right? I mean, considering the
I
growth,
might be on my
you
way.
know.
So my snippets of my life, it's just like I'm just posting what I've always posted, and I'm just sharing what I'm doing. And it's just very cool that I can sit down in front of a camera and now kind of give a recap of what I'm doing, and people are excited to see that process. So it's just awesome that I can kind of do all of that. And then I finish the day with lots of schoolwork, and I do a lot of meetings in my town with collaborators and people that want to share things about their like part of the town with the world. And it's just been so enriching, like with from meetings with the mayor recently to people that are like in their 90s that have this crazy property with like the largest telescope privately owned in Japan. It's like really weird, amazing things going on, and that's just what my life looks like now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, weren't you, or are you now, maybe like the social ambassador or one of the social ambassadors for your town at the moment?
Currently, I'm the tourism, like one of
Yeah,
the tourism ambassadors for my town with the tourism
there
office.
you
So
go.
really weird organic thing. And
Yeah,
these people, they knew me before the business and before this, which is really interesting because I'm in a Kagura team, the like thousands of year old traditional Japanese dance. And they know me as not just like a foreigner who's a university student, but they know me as like, oh, this is Kira from Kinjo Kaguradan, and now she's starting a business, and everyone's wanting to support me because they know me from before. So that's really that's what I do.
yeah, there you go. There you go. this other question too, in terms of like this whole social media angle. Like I know on this program, there's a lot of people that sometimes like lament the fact that they have to spend so much time on social media now. It's not like, like, oh, maybe I'll do it. It's if you have a business, like you have to be doing this, right? It's becoming that now. And like I said, a lot of people aren't exactly thrilled about it because it does take a lot of time and sometimes it's the results aren't coming. Where somebody like yourself is completely on the other end. We've spoken about this already a few times over. The amount of success that it's been, you've been experiencing from that side of things and sharing your life at the moment. I suspect that's helping you find a lot of the success that you're having right now. I mean, what would you say to that besides, what you shared already?
I think it really opens up a lot of doors. And what I have sort of gathered from this, because, people are even telling me, like, you should post 3 times a week, you should have a schedule, you should do this, you're an influencer, you're this. And I'm really not. And beyond social media, I have a business on the ground and I've already got my customers. I have enough for the rest of my life already. And I have schoolwork. So social media is really something I don't really need to keep, scaling. And for me, what I'm experiencing now is that kind of whatever I post, because of the authentic content that I do, I have amazing followers that they will read and look at anything I produce. It doesn't have to be, very professional. It's like they're just excited to follow along my journey, and I get this additional respect from people understanding I'm so busy. And when I do post, it's like, oh, she has time for social media. But in general, I'm glad that I'm not a influencer that people are demanding things from. It's more like we came here because of her business. Now let's just wait for updates. And it makes me feel like I've got this. I'm kind of like reimagining how I use social media as a tool where people just understand the person I am and the what I'm doing, even when I'm not posting about it. And that's been a very beautiful thing where not a lot of influencers can do that. But if you notice, I've noticed sometimes like very, very famous celebrities, they have zero posts and they've got like 30, 40 million followers that are just waiting to see if they do anything, but they're following them because they support them. And that's sort of what's going on with me. It's like if I post once a week or something, I still have 70,000 people and growing because they just care about me. And I think that's a way nicer way to approach things. And once you, especially if you're managing like the technical side of things, doing site like website updates, even I just do channel updates and I like can update people on specific programs. I'll just mention here and there, oh, here's the job opening, here's the program opening. I'm going to open my bookings, which is a kind of big deal now because it'll just be very quick to book it out. But because of the way I'm kind of expressing myself, I think people are just sort of, they're chill with kind of whatever I do, which is a relief, definitely a relief.
Yeah. Yeah, like any tips that you would give to somebody who's trying to do that for themselves, maybe they have a vision of starting their own business in some capacity, or it could be from some other completely different reason. Like what would you tell somebody, a young person in particular, about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to sort of have your niche and be able to express exactly what you're doing really from your heart. And, strangely enough, like Instagram and threads and other platforms, I've noticed they're actually pushing out small scale creators right now a lot more than bigger people. So, kind of what worked for me really well is before I had all of these followers, I was just posting whatever I wanted. And I have this little highlight that's like CEO stories, where from last year I was posting, like, oh my God, this application is so hard. And I had supporters back then, my friends. And then once one video got viral, people went through all of my other posts and they realized this is a real person who's been working really hard. So by, starting from nowhere, ground zero, and just posting your updates, you're already becoming an authentic person to follow. And that's what makes people stay. They won't stay if you've posted one thing that goes viral. Maybe you'll get 1,000 followers, but they'll stay if they know that you are like this consistently and this is just who you are. And I think that's probably why I've attracted so many great people, because they're like, Kira, I feel like I know you. And I'm honored that I can express myself that way, but I know it's from like years of me just being myself. And I think you don't care about the quantity of people, but I have definitely the algorithm worked well for me, and now it just all started
Yeah,
clicking.
yeah. There's a word that you used twice when you were explaining all this.
Hmm.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you're driving at right there. And I think that's what comes across, at least the videos that I've seen as well. And that's certainly what's probably driving a lot of this growth right now. It's real. There's a lot of enthusiasm behind what you're doing, and you're right. I mean, people are going to respond to that once they buy into it and they believe it and they believe it's real. I mean, there's so many like you said, playbooks of posting 3 days a week, doing this, doing that, but like ultimately at the end of the day, it probably just does boil down to something as simple as just being
Yeah.
authentic, right?
I think, and me as a like viewer and what I ingest on social media, I think we've got a little bit too inundated with just like people posting the same thing, looking the same, being the same, and having nothing kind of special to share. And for me, being authentic, I'm like, what am I even supposed to pretend about? Like, I think that's why people are surprised about what I'm doing because they're like, what? Like, this girl is so interesting and she's real. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, or shouldn't we all be like this?
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting thing where people are more surprised that you're a real person these days because social media gives you the structure of how to be. And I'm finding so much success in just making my own way, making my own business, doing what I think is the best thing for the world and for me. And I think we need more leaders to sort of shape that way instead of following this blueprint that it just makes you so, I guess,
Yeah,
normal.
well, not only that, I think it's probably a healthier way about going about it too, right? I mean, just being yourself than trying to live up to some sort of image. So yeah, no, I do appreciate that insight there. I've had this other question though too. Returning to this point of entrepreneurship, that topic has been written about, spoken about by millions of people the world over. Like for many years, obviously, and so many topics have been covered here. Now, I'm sure like when you got into what you're doing right now, you probably read up a little bit on certain things that you should be aware of or should have an idea of. But all the same, I'm curious about, was there anything that like really surprised you, or you maybe like, I don't know, you overlooked perhaps, like you knew this aspect of running a business is important, but maybe you didn't know it was this important. Is there anything that stands out there for you?
I guess I've been kind of shocking myself with the fact that I'm inventing everything. I get very surprised that I'm like, I invented this business and everything that goes into this business, and I have to invent jobs and tasks for people and employ people to help me. And it's a very strange feeling where because I sometimes feel very overwhelmed with what I've got going on. And then I just hire people to do that work. And it's a weird feeling of alleviating my stress by employing people, but I still have to invent what they're doing. And it's surprising me a lot in terms of this generation and our use of technology, and the tasks that I have for my business are so like weird and like Gen Z. Like I'm like, I need people to help me edit this reel, and I that kind of job opportunity, this is a new age of career and work opportunities that just hasn't really existed before this generation. So I found myself very surprised by the space and how I am as a CEO. I have definitely like different things that I need from people, and it's just very interesting because they don't teach you this in school. They're not so up to date with what the world is like right now, and it's been a very exciting experience, but also kind of stressful because I don't know how to kind of do a business. So I'm just sort of trying things out, and people are helping me, and I'm like, it's successful. There's people coming, they're leaving happy. I'm like, it's working, but it's very weird to have something that's not, it doesn't exist in any form but my own.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of relates to like some of the ethos that comes out of somewhere like, say, Silicon Valley, which is obviously very different than what you're doing right now, of course. But like their sort of like way of looking at building a business is, you're building it while you're on the runway, while you're trying to get that plane up in the air. You're figuring out like what bolts need to be tightened. You're figuring out what's broken, what's
Yeah.
working. Like you're breaking things, you're fixing things, and you're moving forward. That's the name of the game. And it sounds like that's what you're kind of describing in your business right now. So in that sense, right? I mean, you're figuring things out on the fly, you're reinventing new job descriptions, new new things that are suddenly needed based off of maybe a new service that you're launching or a new initiative, perhaps.
I've definitely never been one to procrastinate, and even if it could be risky and messy, I'm just very much the person to just full send, and I'd rather figure out what's wrong before it's passed me by. And I think that attitude is kind of what every entrepreneur deals with. Is like you can spend your whole life planning for something, but it won't matter until you actually do it. And for me right now, I'm just even with the visa, I just sort of like, I'm like, let me just try and do it and get it. And then I did. And then let me just try and start a business and see what happens. And I did it. And I'm like, this is what's setting me apart from other people. I think anyone actually now can just start a business if you just look at the legal requirements. And then once you have a business, you have your footprint in the world and you can just do anything you want with this as like a way to make money and support people. So it's already an important asset that you have. So I think the best thing to do is just follow your heart and do it as soon as possible. The best time is now. You don't have to wait for a special date. I never believed in arbitrary dates to start something. I'm like, if you're thinking about it and talking about it, why aren't you doing it? Is my philosophy.
I got one last question here in the segment, and I came across this really great quote on your website. I'm just going to read this off for listeners right now. It goes like this: Kirameki is more than a business. It's a movement to create and sustain a joyful future for Japan's countryside. Now, based on all that we've covered in this conversation, like I can kind of connect up the dots as far as like making sense of all of that. But I'd suspect that, Kirameki and what it means outside of like the business sense, like more on a personal side to you, it's that's something that must be incredibly meaningful right now, based on your contributions in the community, based on like your visions of what it could become, based on what you're receiving from it right now, personally. Maybe we could hear a little bit more about that side of all of this experience for you.
Wow, you're really that's so nice you picked that out from my website, and I think it encompasses like the kind of person I am and what I want to do for the world. And with Japan and what a beautiful country it is, what I think about when I think of that quote is just the way that humanity is right now and the space in the world, how we have so many horrors and so much tragedy every day. And even people living in Japan, Japanese people, they struggle a lot economically. People in Tokyo and big cities are very depressed. Suicide rates are so high. It's not a very like happy world we live in. And I have been very honored to have this positive, optimistic perspective of the world. And it does come from being where I am in Kita Hiroshima and in the countryside. People have time for family and for connecting with their roots and traditions and really having fulfilled lives with passions that aren't just to work to live. And I think by showcasing that to the world and inviting people into this space, what I'm trying to do is, have people leave with something they didn't have before and even learn something about this lifestyle. See, why is it so special here? Why is this girl so happy? Like out of 41 countries in the world, why did she pick this place? And there's a lot to say about that, and it makes it so much more meaningful that a person like me chose this place and believes it can actually do something very positive for the world. And even with people I've invited from Tokyo who have never heard about Kagura, which is like storytelling of the mythology of Japan. People haven't even heard of that. Japanese people haven't even heard of that. People in Tokyo come and they're like, what am I've been missing out on this? Like, this is so great. And your property is bigger than any place I've ever lived. And you pay a fraction of what I've paid. And the people are kind. You have community. Your food is fresh. You're able to do all these beautiful things and have so much time. And by showing that, I really want to encourage especially Japanese people to sort of realize that there are so many more opportunities outside of the big cities. And I need to, even with my business, I might be able to create a lot of opportunities for people to come here. And I think it's a happier place. And by distributing wonderful people throughout Japan and not concentrating them in depressed places, I think Japan will become a better place, the world will become a better place, and everyone can kind of go back to their roots of community and true joy and fulfilled lives, and we've forgotten that, and we're missing out on the humanity of earth even as we enter more technologically powerful in this era that we're entering with AI and all these tools. I think we might be able to use these tools, but we still want to have our feet in the ground, and we still want to connect with amazing people, and we need to preserve that. And I am just totally revolved around that. And as long as I have this part of the world where I'm able to share, this will always exist. And I will be very proud to have this for the
Yeah,
world.
it's such a refreshing perspective to hear somebody like yourself
Mhm.
really adhering to these types of values and wanting to promote them. It's just presenting a different way of living, a different way of life. And there's so many ways to live your life ultimately. Like, we don't necessarily have to follow this one track. And I think a lot of people are getting caught up in that world of just like technology, get the job that pays the biggest salary, get all the toys, like all of this stuff, which, it's material oftentimes, and it's not going to deliver that sense of fulfillment necessarily. We know this, but yet a lot of people continually fall into this trap. So again, refreshing is the word that comes to mind. One other follow-up question though, I mean, like, when you see these people that are coming to your place or like entering into your programs and they're walking away feeling fulfilled, what does that do to you? Like, how is that hitting you inside your heart?
It really makes me feel like I'm making a difference. And, you know, even strangely, like people that haven't even visited, but they see what I'm doing and see guests' remarks online, and they actually might not have the ability to travel. People are telling me that I'm inspiring them to sort of take on their own mission and start their own business and support Japan in some way and start their own thing that could support me in some way. People are getting inspired by my actions and my optimism and my hard work. And it does something really like surreal for me. And, I'm at this level of contentment and fulfillment already. Even by impacting one person, I have enough gratitude and appreciation for what's happened that can last me a lifetime already. And everything else is just a bonus. So I feel honored that I'm able to really leave a mark on the people who have come here. And these are people that have been to Japan many, many, many times. And they say, after leaving a program with me, they've never had such an amazing experience with the community, and it's so social and it's so interesting. They're experiencing traditions that are so much older than some of the countries they are coming from. So it's so fascinating to them and such an honor to me that I can kind of showcase this part of the world that's never ever been shared before.
I do have one last thing that I want to get into here, a water cooler story. And I'd love to hear a story related to your work. I'm sure you've got several, but is there one in particular that stands out?
Gosh, yeah. What I can tell you right off the bat, the most kind of recent story is there's this 92-year-old man, and he lives in my town. This is the guy with the largest private owned telescope in Japan. And this guy is so interesting. Him and his wife, they're in their 90s, and they have this enormous property that he's hand built. And there's this crazy situation with traditional Japanese artifacts. It's like staying in a museum, and they've devoted their whole life to this. They thought they wouldn't have kids, but they turned out to have one daughter. But that's why they invested so much in this property. They've never operated it as a business. They've been hosting exchange students. They had 11 Bernese mountain dogs. He's the most hilarious, energetic old man who wakes up at 5 in the morning every day and sleeps at 2 in the morning every morning. So he's just so busy, and he's 92. I've never been so inspired by someone seeing him live his life this way. And apparently, they were high school teachers. And, meeting them and going to this place has been such an incredible experience for me. And having them sort of want to open their doors to the world, and they want to share their message. He even wants an apprentice to teach about his telescopes and astronomy, and me being able to support them is just the best feeling in the world. And their daughter, their daughter's daughter, we're all working together, and they're going to be this sort of main point of interest for my Kirameki programs, where you're going to be able to stay at Astro Park. And it's this incredible situation where you just take a walk in a time capsule, and this 92-year-old man is just the most hilarious, wonderful person, and it's just surreal. It feels like real characters from a Studio Ghibli movie, and it exists, and it's in my town, and it's in my business, and I think their whole life is a story in itself. And I asked him, I'm like, can I, like, write a short bio about you to explain it? And he's like, I'm just a normal guy. Like, I have nothing. I'm like, wow, like the way that he's so interesting. And I think, the most humble, kind of wonderful, interesting people I know I'm collaborating with. And it is just such an honor for people to meet him as well, and to listen to some of his jokes. And yeah, that's the best experience I've had in the past couple weeks. So I'm excited to share his stories with the world. And yeah, just he's a mystery. He's a
Sounds
mystery.
like it. Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, Japan is a special place in that sense. Like I've certainly in my time here as well come across some eccentric individuals who have like these really unique passions, but oftentimes what I found is like they're attached to them so deeply that they drive their own fulfillment. They drive their lives forward based off of these passions, and they can really sink themselves into it. And I think it brings these particular individuals a lot of joy and a lot of, again, that word, I'm going to bring it up again, fulfillment, and it might be one of the secrets here of longevity perhaps, and some of the contentment that a lot of older folks in Japan tend to have, once they finish working their 9 to 5 jobs, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that story there. I know I've taken a ton of your time, but I do have one last request here, and this one's going out to some of the younger listeners perhaps that might have an interest in starting their own passion-based business, but they're looking for some encouragement. They're looking for some direct advice. Now, certainly you've shared a lot already in this episode. I was wondering if there's anything else that you might be able to give to somebody who's, like I said, looking to start their own passion-driven enterprise.
My best recommendation is to explore and to make as many mistakes as possible so you can learn from them. And what helped me so much is meeting people and talking to people and figuring out all the options in life that are out there, because I would have never known you can. Do a astronomy park as a high school teacher, and I would have never known so many, business owners that they could even create that. Once you talk to people and see what options are out there, you'll realize anything is possible and you can do anything you'd like. And the world is totally limitless because of your ability to create. And with the opportunities we have now, it's just endless. So, my best piece of advice is just meet as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible, get inspiration from the world around you, and deep dive into what you love. Because once you align yourself with what you love and what makes the world a better place, and what is going to give you money and what is going to be fulfilling to you, you're able to create a path that's so natural and so beautiful that it won't feel like working ever. So I would really encourage people to pursue that.
Oh, beautifully put. I really like that. Kira, I mean, it's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed this conversation from start to finish. I can't believe we're already drawing to the end here. It feels like we honestly just got started. Really quickly here, where can people find you? Obviously, Instagram would be a place. What would be your handle, and where are some other places? Maybe your website that you'd like to share?
Yeah, my Instagram is Kira Flowers. So KIRAFLOWERZ. And all that's kind of on everything. So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram is Kira Flowers. And then for my business, everything is kirameki.earth. So KIRAMEKI.earth on everything. So I'm sort of keeping that consistent. And yeah, I'd love to talk to any listeners if they send me even an email at contact@kirameki.earth or DM me on Instagram. I would just love to hear people that listen to this podcast and hear their thoughts. So that means a lot to me, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again. I'll make sure to have links to all this in the show notes so people will be able to find you. But thanks again, Kira. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Now, for those interested in learning more about Kira and her work, you can do so via her website, Kirameki Earth. She's also on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And as noted, I will have links for all of those in the show notes. And hey, if you like today's show, please be sure to tell a friend and share. To show further support, you can always rate, review, and subscribe wherever you access your podcasts. And as I mentioned off the top of the program, I do have that YouTube channel, which includes highlights from these conversations that I have with these wonderful guests. And finally, don't forget to join us on the next episode of Life as a. You could literally be one listen away from finding your dream job. I'm Christopher Schoenwald, your host, and until next time, don't settle for less. Find a career you were born for.